Welcome in to Duval Daily. I'm Jordan DeLugo. Uh, we really appreciate you joining us here. This is Duval Daily presented by GenJag.com. Today, we are looking at the Jaguars offense post NFL draft, post free agency. How good can the Jacksonville Jaguars offense be in 2022? If you enjoy the content, please like and subscribe on YouTube. We really appreciate the support. It helps more people find the channel. You can follow myself on Twitter at Jordan DeLugo, Generation Jaguar, at Generation Jag. Before we jump in to the Jaguars offense here, we've got some news on the London game. The Jaguars will host the Broncos in Week 8, October 30th at 9:30 a.m. in London at Wembley Stadium. It will air locally, of course, and on ESPN Plus nationally. That'll be ESPN Plus's first foray into NFL games. So I'm sure people will have opinions about that. I know not everyone has ESPN Plus, so they've been trying to get more original content over there, more coverage, and more people subscribing. So yeah, again, Jaguars host the Broncos in London Week 8, October 30th at 9:30 a.m. Airs locally and on ESPN Plus nationally. Russell Wilson versus Trevor Lawrence. That should be a good one. The Jaguars are 4-4 all time in London, despite being one of the worst franchises in the NFL over the last decade plus. They've been going over there since 2013, and they've done well, surprisingly. 500 record. Beat the Dolphins on a Matty Ice last second field goal last year. You had Trevor Lawrence, Laviska Shenault, those guys leading the team down the field to get in field goal range and make that kick. So again, I know that takes away a home game, a Jacksonville home game for all the season ticket holders and local fans. Not the most exciting thing, but Doug Peterson talked about it this morning. He's kind of embraced the idea of going over to London every year. Says it's a great way to for the coaches, for the players to kind of experience a culture they don't normally get to. I think if you're going to be the head coach of the Jacksonville Jaguars, you might as well embrace the London experience anyways. Getting upset about it and kind of being resistant towards it is going to do nothing positive for you anyways. So I think Doug Peterson has the right angle there, certainly. But we're here to talk about the Jaguars offense. How good is it? And I just mentioned Doug Peterson. I think the Jaguars made some huge personnel moves this offseason, from free agency to the draft, but they did not make a bigger move than hiring Doug Peterson as their head coach and getting the old regime out of here, the old coaching staff out of here. This matters on both sides of the ball. The coaching change, again, is the most important move the Jaguars made, in my mind, without question. And make no mistake about it, they have made some huge moves, like I said, in free agency and the draft. But Doug Peterson, he's already begun to create a culture of positivity, teamwork, belief. This is a team that is built around character. Austin says, "Good morning. Hope all my Jags fans have a great day." Hell yeah. Hope everybody has a good day on here too as well. So, but this is a team that's being built around character, and I know you've heard that before. With this group, it seems like it's really coming to fruition with some of the draft picks and free agency signings. There's not a bad apple in that building, and if there is, they're going to root it out. It appears. I think the character talk from Doug Peterson, I think he's pushing that so hard because there was a lack of character, certainly from the head coaching position in Jacksonville last year. Caleb says, "What do you see as Chenault's role in the offense?" We'll get to all that. I'm working to it. But yeah, I think Peterson's culture that he is trying to establish here is certainly going to make an impact early. But his offense is gonna be fun. It's gonna be a professional offense. You did not see a professional offense in Jacksonville last year. It was a mishmash between what Urban Meyer wanted and what the rest of the offensive coaching staff, Darrell Bevel, uh, and Schottenheimer and the rest of that crew, what they wanted. It was not a cohesive, living, breathing, growing offense. It was stagnant. It was ugly. They didn't know what they were doing, to be completely honest with you. I think the coaching staff, their their thank you, Josh Bergman. Their ability to take what Urban Meyer wanted from the college offenses and mix it in with an NFL offense, it just didn't work. It was ugly. I don't think it was ever really going to work. I think it was wishful thinking by a lot of us, thinking that maybe Urban Meyer could come in here and do something positive. But the bottom line is he wasn't putting in the work. He wasn't being a leader. And if there's two things Doug Peterson is going to do, he's going to put in the work. He's going to be a leader, and he's going to be a player's coach. He's been beloved by a lot of the players around the league, the guys he's worked with as a head coach and as a coordinator. So this is going to be a zone rushing attack. It starts up front. Probably a lot of wide zone, looking at Phil Rauscher coming over from Minnesota, but they're going to get in the inside zone as well. I'm sure you'll see quite a lot of that. Some West Coast principles from the passing game, but you're going to see zone read. You're going to see deep shots, a lot of creativity, which you did not see in Jacksonville in 2021 or even the prior couple years. You didn't see much creativity. But again, this will look like a professional offense for the first time since 2017. And that was an offense that was led by Blake Bortles. Now you've got Trevor Lawrence, and there's really not much of a comparison in their skill sets, to be completely honest. Trevor Lawrence is just so much of a better quarterback than Blake Bortles was, even in Blake Bortles' fourth year, I believe that was, third or fourth year. But Press Taylor, he's the offensive coordinator. He's not going to be the play caller. That's going to be Doug Peterson's responsibility. But he is going to do everything else that an offensive coordinator does. We'll get to those catches here, Josh. Josh says Travis Etienne 50 catches this year. It wouldn't be shocking, but we'll get to that. Um, So the rest of the coaching staff, Mike McCoy, former head coach, former offensive coordinator, he's their quarterback coach. Jim Bob Cooter has a ton of experience as well. All these guys, a lot of them were quarterbacks. When you look at Press Taylor, Mike McCoy, Jim Bob Cooter, Doug Peterson, Chris Jackson's the wide receivers coach. He's going to need to just get them guys on the jugs, right? They dropped a league leading amount of passes last year. Very frustrating season in that regard. And then Richard Angulo coaching up those tight ends. Looking back at Doug Peterson's history, in his first year as a head coach with rookie Carson Wentz in 2016, the Eagles finished 21st in total offense. Even if the Jaguars were 21st in offense this year, that would be a massive step forward. They were the worst point scoring team in football in 2021. But in 2017, Carson Wentz's second year, where he was on an MVP pace, the offense finished seventh. They went and won the Super Bowl with Nick Foles having a historic playoff run. By the way, there's some rumors that maybe Nick Foles could reunite with Doug Peterson in Jacksonville after being released by the Bears. Um, we'll see about if that comes to fruition or not, but that's talk for another day. But yeah, in 2018, they finished 14th over in Philly in offense. 2019, 14th. The one really disappointing result was in 2020 when Wentz was kind of falling apart and they got Jalen Hurts in there as a rookie. He really wasn't ready to lead an NFL offense yet, run a full NFL offense. But like I said, even if the Jaguars get to around 20th, this offense that's a massive improvement. They were the worst offense in football last year. But I honestly think that 21 mark that Doug Peterson was able to guide the Eagles to in 2016 in his first year there, I think that's kind of the floor here in Jacksonville. And that's going to set the table here for this discussion for the offensive talent. And the reason I believe that that's the floor is because there is legitimate offensive talent in Jacksonville. Did the Jaguars go out and go all in on surrounding Trevor Lawrence with as much possible talent as they could this year on the offensive side of the ball? No. But did they upgrade every single room? I think they did. It starts with the tackles up front. I went back and regraded Cam Robinson's performance in 2021. Of course, he received the franchise tag and then they worked out the extension. He made a positive impact overall in 9 of his 14 games that he played in, and he was neutral in my mind in 2 more games. So if you're getting good to decent play in 78% of your contests from your left tackle, I think that's good enough. I don't think bringing him back was an elite move. I don't think it was a great move, but I do think it was a safe move. And now Cam Robinson should be entering a better situation with a better coaching staff, a better overall team around him, like everyone else on the team. And with this coaching staff, plus the fact that he's going into his prime, he has improved every single season since 2019. Can we bank on another step up in play? I think so. Maybe not a major step from Cam Robinson, but I expect him to do what he has done every year, which is improve, especially going in with this new coaching staff, this new offense that I think is going to be just night and day compared to what you saw last year. Now, on the right side at right tackle, Jawan Taylor and Walker Little appear to be duking it out this summer for that job at right tackle. I don't know how Jawan can hold on to that job. And if he does, I'd be concerned, quite frankly, for Walker Little's future. But Little has the draft pedigree, the size, the athleticism, the long arms. He played really, really well at the end of the 2021 season at left tackle. So, do you feel good about Cam Robinson and the combination of Jawan Taylor or Walker Little? Um, I do. I think Walker Little is going to be a long-time starter in the NFL. I think Cam Robinson has been average to slightly above average for most of his career, and he has continued to improve. I don't think this is going to be a couple of elite tackles in 2022. You're not going to have one of those groups where you just feel like they're going to dominate anybody they play against. But I do think they're good. Above average. If Walker Little's able to earn that job and Cam Robinson continues to improve. Not great, but not bad at all. And then you look at the interior, I feel even more encouraged about the interior of the offensive line. Tyler Shatley, Brandon Scherf, Ben Barch, and Luke Fortner are the guys that comprise the top 4. You're going to have, starting left guard, starting right guard, and starting center. Brandon Scherf is going to slot in as that starting right guard. He is a Pro Bowl player. Bottom line, season in, season out, he's able to contribute at an extremely high level. As we've got Murray joining the party here. Say hi to Murray. We've got technical difficulties. That's all right. So, getting back to the interior offensive line. I think Brandon Scherf is going to come in, whether he plays 2/3 of the season, the full season, whatever he's able to give you is going to be Pro Bowl level play. And then between Tyler Shatley, Ben Barch, and Luke Fortner, that's going to be your starting left guard and starting center. I would not be surprised if Luke Fortner is able to come in and earn one of those jobs immediately. And I wouldn't be surprised, let's say Luke Fortner works out at center, which is where the Jaguars are going to start him off. Let's say he works out at center. He's playing very well there. Tyler Shatley could be competing with Ben Barch for the left guard spot in that situation. And whoever wins that job, I think you feel good enough about. And then if Jawan Taylor loses the right tackle job, he's a very good swing tackle. Let's not make any mistake about it. If Jawan Taylor is your third tackle, you're in a good situation. Penalties are really out of hand, especially in 2021. But overall, if he's your third best tackle, that's not bad. And then you look at the depth that's going to be on the interior, whether it be Tyler Shatley, Ben Barch, or Luke Fortner starting in those two spots. Whoever is not the starter is going to be a primary backup. You're going to have Will Richardson on the interior as well. So I think this offensive line has more talent and depth than it has in a while. And so I think from a run blocking standpoint, uh, you really like Brandon Scherf. You really like Luke Fortner, Tyler Shatley. Even Ben Barch is a heck of a run blocker. I think Walker Little and Cam Robinson are adequate run blockers, excuse me, and pretty good pass protectors. So where is this offensive line? I would give it probably a B to a B minus if I had to grade it. And again, we haven't seen the Jaguars. These guys haven't practiced together except for voluntary mini camp. Like they've got a long way to go. We're just looking at on paper what does this team look like, and we will preview the offense obviously again before the start of the regular season. This is just post NFL draft, post free agency. How does this Jaguars offense look? Murray's being a little anxious over here. So working our way from the offensive line to the running back room, it's interesting, right? On paper, this backfield is super talented. You look at Travis Etienne, a first round pick in 2021. James Robinson holds the records for undrafted free agent rushing as a rookie. But both of these guys are coming off major injuries. Travis Etienne, the Liz Frank suffered in week 2 of the preseason in 2021. James Robinson suffered a torn Achilles late in the season in December. Etienne's supposed to be ready for training camp. James Robinson, it's still kind of TBD. I might expect him to not be ready for the start of training camp, maybe for the start of the regular season. But then the Jags brought in Snoop Connor, who they obviously valued quite a bit with trading up for him in the 5th round. This is a guy that's 5'10", 222, similar size profile to James Robinson. He has a little bit more long speed than Robinson, but I wouldn't say that he has the vision or explosiveness or contact balance that Robinson has. You might not need him to. Not a lot of guys do have that same combination that Robinson has with his vision, contact balance, and short area explosiveness. But what does Snoop Connor have? He has size, he has power, he has the ability to one cut and go and kind of get out in the open field and have stiff arm people, run through arm tackles. Was not the starter at Ole Miss, but when he was on the field, he was very effective for the Ole Miss Rebels, scored a ton of touchdowns at Ole Miss during his career. So if Snoop Connor has to be your power back while you're waiting on James Robinson to return, I think he can get the job done. He did fumble a little too much last year. 3 fumbles on about 130 attempts, I believe, which you want to see that number reduced. And that's very coachable. We've seen that throughout the years. But how effective can this running back group be? It really depends on their health. Is Travis Etienne the same guy we saw before the Liz Frank injury? This is not the same injury it was even 5 years ago. Guys are coming back from it and looking very athletic, good to go, no problems. Etienne says if he didn't know that there was a screw in his foot, that he wouldn't feel it. So I think that's encouraging. He says he's 100%, but the trainers tell him, and this was about a month ago, 3 weeks ago, that he was 85 to 90%. I think he'll be ready to go. I think you can still expect an explosive runner who is dynamic in the open field, a lot of speed, uh, a guy that can do a lot for you. Has really developed as a receiver during his final year at Clemson and then throughout the summer in 2021 before his injury. So I think ETN, while Robinson is coming back from his injury, he's going to be the focal point of the offense early on, to be completely honest with you. That's my expectation. I think he's going to catch the ball out of the backfield a lot. I think he's going to get a lot of carries. I think the Jaguars are going to use a lot of zone read with him and Trevor Lawrence, and that could be a deadly combination with his speed, his ability to make people miss in the open field. and his home run ability. I think you have a good running back room. A lot of that will depend on health, but again, Travis Etienne appears to be on track to be ready to go. James Robinson should be ready at some point in the first 4 games of the regular season at the latest. And Snoop Connor, while underutilized at Ole Miss, if you have an offensive line that has guys like Brandon Scherf, Luke Fortner that can get out and move and create space, create openings for Snoop Connor, he's going to feast. Uh, you get him to the second level, taking on linebackers, cornerbacks, safeties. He's going to have the advantage in the power department, um, going head up against a lot of those guys in the NFL. Running back room, another B for me, maybe closer to a B plus. I think with Travis Etienne and James Robinson, you have a very good running back room when healthy. Jack Sayre says at least we don't have to endure Carlos Hyde this year. That is very true. No Carlos Hyde in Jacksonville for whatever reason. His tenures in Jacksonville have been ugly. Steve Boston's asking about the undrafted free agents, Garrett Prince, Kevin Austin. I'm not going to do a UDFA video, to be completely honest. Most of those guys aren't going to make the team. I talked a little bit about Garrett Prince and Kevin Austin yesterday. So, yeah, and we can continue to talk about those guys. I'm just not going to do a full stream or video about undrafted free agents. Can you see Jawan Taylor playing left guard? No, I really can't. He struggles with power, struggles with inside moves. I don't think he should be a starting offensive lineman in the NFL. I think he should be a backup and a quality backup at that. So we're looking at the offensive line. I'm giving them a B, in between a B minus and a solid B. Running back, a solid B. Receivers and tight ends. This is perhaps the most maligned group when you look at fans, what they're thinking about this team, when you look at what the national media is saying about this team. But for me, Christian Kirk is probably not the guy you want to be your wide receiver one. He's certainly not a pure X. He is a versatile receiver that you're going to line up in the slot. You're going to line up out wide, both at X and as a flanker, and he's going to move around the formation. He's effective in all those roles. He can take the top off the defense with his speed. He can uncover early with his quickness and route running. So I think he is going to be a very effective receiver. And I think people are really underrating his skill set, how effective he can be in Doug Peterson's offense, moving him around as a chess piece. Then you look at Marvin Jones, who's another guy that I think is being severely underrated. I don't think at this point in his career you want him to be a number 2 receiver, but is he capable of doing that? Every season, including 2021, he has been an effective and positive impact on every team he's been on. Marvin Jones has been. He is a solid possession receiver who can really go up and get the ball at all 3 levels. I don't think he is an elite number 2, but is he a quality number 2 that can get the job done? I think he showed that he can be that. And again, that was in terrible circumstances last year. Marvin Jones personally was having one of the hardest times dealing with what Urban Meyer was doing inside that locker room. I know he was really battling through it. Marvin Jones was. And so I think if you look at Christian Kirk and Marvin Jones, are these guys going to be above average as a 1-2 punch? And are they going to be the Jaguars' top 2 receivers? I think so. They're both going to line up inside. They're both going to line up outside, move around the formation. Are they going to be above average? Are they going to be really good? No. But are they going to be passing thresholds of being effective players? Yeah, I think they are. And then you look at the rest of the receiving core with Zay Jones, Jamal Agnew, Laviska Shenault, Laquan Treadwell, Kevin Austin, the undrafted free agent out of Notre Dame. I think Zay Jones is going to get the first opportunity to be the third receiver for the Jaguars, the guy that, let's say let's say you've got Christian Kirk lined up in the slot. You've got Marvin Jones on one side. I think you'll see Zay Jones on the other a lot. He's a really quality blocker. He doesn't do anything exceptionally well, but he's also not he doesn't have any clear weaknesses either, right? He's just a solid overall guy, good athleticism, good hands, good blocker, which is going to help a lot when you're trying to get Travis Etienne going early in the season. I think he's going to be the get the first opportunity to start. They signed him to a deal that is kind of a starter deal, a low end starter deal this offseason. I'm not blown away by his skill set, but is he going to come in and drop a lot of footballs and frustrate you as a fan? I don't think he is. Jamal Agnew and Laviska Shenault are the most interesting pieces to the wide receiver room. Agnew's coming off of a significant injury, but prior Florida Boy says Zay Jones catching and route running is better than any wide receiver we had last year. I don't agree with that. I think Marvin Jones is a much better receiver than Zay Jones. I know Zay Jones is younger, he has more upside, but getting back to Jamal Agnew and Laviska Shenault, Jamal Agnew's coming off a big injury, but prior to that injury, he was the Jaguars' most effective receiver for a portion of the season. I mean, he showed the ability to run routes, to separate, to go up and get the football, to make catches, tight sideline catches, showing some toe drag swag. This is a guy. If he was able to return to his to health, I mean, he even showed the ability to take the ball out of the backfield as well and put up six. He did that. I think it was against the Dolphins. Incredibly long touchdown run for Jamal Agnew. So I think he's an offensive weapon being under talked about. Laviska Shenault never had a drop problem in his entire life prior to 2021. Was that a product of Sanjay Law not doing the best job coaching the receivers up? Was it a product of the distractions created by Urban Meyer and everything else going on? Yeah, and Bobby Dunlap. Jamal Agnew, you're right. He was learning to be a receiver over the last 2 seasons, 2020 and 2021. That's the most Jamal Agnew's ever gotten in practice as a receiver. He used to be a cornerback. So this is a guy that I think the arrow's certainly pointing up for Agnew. I think it's pointing up for Chenault if they keep him around. Um, he's a guy that never had a drop problem. He's effective as a guy catching screens, running the ball out of the backfield. I think he's effective on slants. He was the Jaguars' most consistent target on third and fourth down last year. Just dropped the ball a lot, and the entire Jaguars receiving corps did. They led the league in drops last year. They were consistently not getting good spacing. They were consistently dropping the football. I can't tell you how many times Trevor Lawrence just dropped a dime deep down the field for it to go as an incompletion, go down as an incompletion. Laquan Treadwell was God bless the guy. He's battled through it. Former first round pick. He's had a hard time staying in the league, but he's kept a positive outlook. And I think if he's the final receiver on your roster, that's good. But he had to be the primary target for Trevor Lawrence at times. And he proved that despite making some impressive plays, he really wasn't up to the task of being a consistent contributor down the field. Now, Kevin Austin, we can talk about real quick, undrafted free agent out of Notre Dame. Unbelievable athlete. Really did not get much experience at Notre Dame until his final season, which was 2021, redshirt junior year, suspended for all of 2019. He has all the physical tools. And at Notre Dame, he was a nine ball specialist, deep guy specialist, just with his size at 6'2, 200 pounds, long arms, 40-inch vertical, huge catch radius, 4'4", 40. He was a nine ball specialist. Just throw it up down the sideline. He's going to go get it. I do think he has some route running ability. You saw him running slants, some outs, some digs, but it's all about for Kevin Austin developing his release package, becoming a professional, really. If he's able to attack this like a professional, he has the talent to have staying power on NFL roster and potentially be like a third or fourth target, deep ball specialist type of guy who can make it very difficult for defenses to game plan for you. Again, I think he's a ways away from contributing right now. The Jaguars did value him. They wanted to bring him in. He was a guy they kind of paid up for in undrafted free agency. So they want him around here, but to expect him to have a major impact outside of just being a deep ball guy in 2022, I think you're just having too high of expectations. So is this receiver room good enough to support Trevor Lawrence? I think it's good enough. I don't think it's inspiring. I do think the Jaguars value these guys higher than I do, and certainly higher than most people outside the building do. But I think if Christian Kirk and Marvin Jones are your primary targets, that leaves a little bit to be desired, and that's no knock on either of them. I think both of them should be significant contributors in the NFL. I think Christian Kirk is absolutely a starting caliber receiver. I think Marvin Jones is borderline at this point, and he could have a big bounce back. He had some he was overall a positive impact in 2021 for the Jaguars, but he did have some instances where you're kind of scratching your head. Why wasn't he able to make that play for Trevor Lawrence? Could he have a bounce back with a new coaching staff, a program that he actually believes in? Absolutely. And he doesn't need to have a major bounce back. He just had a few plays here and there last year. Marvin Jones did that were kind of head scratching. Jamal Agnew and Laviska Shenault can really be effective players, I think, in a Doug Peterson offense. Zay Jones, steady as he goes, not going to do anything spectacular, but also not going to put the football on the ground a ton, not going to frustrate you much. All right, so we've been talking 30 minutes already. We haven't talked much about Trevor Lawrence, and now it is time to talk about Trevor Lawrence. Oh, I didn't mention the tight ends yet either, did I? Dan Arnold, Evan Ingram, I think this is the best tight end group, plus Chris Manhertz, of course. Best tight end group they've had in a while. I think if Evan Ingram struggles with catching the football as he did last year or as he has in the past, you just rely on Dan Arnold a little bit more, and I have no problem with that. But I think Ingram and Arnold are going to present matchup problems for defenses with their athleticism, their ability to stretch the field horizontally and vertically from the flex position, flex tight end, and line. And Chris Manhertz, he's an extension of the offensive line. I know a lot of people just remember, I think he had 3 penalties in one game last year, but he is a quality blocker on the end of that offensive line, and that's going to help. I think you're going to see more bright spots from him in the blocking game in 2022 than you did in 2021. So yeah, I think the tight ends and receivers as a whole, probably a C plus. I think Christian Kirk is very good. I think Marvin Jones is solid. I think Zay Jones is solid. Agnew and Chenault both have upside. And so that's what I'm looking at with the receivers. And then the tight ends, I think Dan Arnold is incredibly solid. Evan Ingram is a big play waiting to happen, but you could have some frustrating drops out of Ingram that you've seen in his past. But getting to Trevor Lawrence, he made massive strides throughout the year despite inconsistent offensive line play, despite receivers dropping passes at an insane rate. Again, they led the league in drops. Despite injuries at running back and wide receiver, despite an absolute joke of a head coach, and despite having to become the spokesperson for the team down the stretch, explaining what's going on inside the locker room. Again, the amount of gorgeous deep balls that would have been touchdowns or chunk plays that the Jaguars receivers dropped last year, just so frustrating. But I think he has potentially transcendent ability. He's going to elevate the guys around him in 2022. He's not going to put the team on his back every single week, but there's going to be a handful of games, maybe more, I think, where Trevor is just going to be impossible to stop. When you look at his development, giving him a full offseason, giving him a head coach who knows what it takes to win in the NFL, who is a former quarterback himself, who has gotten the most out of a lot of quarterbacks in this league. Elena's dad says, "I need to see that generational talent this season." I think if you were paying attention, and I'm not calling you out at all, but if you were really digging into the tape, you saw a lot of that talent last year, but it was hard for it to manifest itself consistently with the problems going on around Trevor Lawrence and the offense. And make no mistake about it, he made mistakes throughout the season. The good thing about Trevor Lawrence is he didn't make a lot of the same mistakes twice. He really grew from his mistakes. He learned. I think Trevor Lawrence is going to have a big jump in year two, and he is going to bring some of these guys with him. I think he consistently made the offensive line look better than it was in 2021 by just being someone that can maneuver the pocket. A step to the right here, a step backward there, a step up in the pocket. He was able to do that like a seasoned veteran in 2021, despite just all that going wrong around him. And again, you look at his completion percentage, 39 dropped passes, I believe, from the Jaguars receivers. You cut that in half, which I'm not sure if they'll be able to do, but cut it in a third, which should be easily done with Christian Kirk, Marvin Jones, and Zay Jones leading the way. Um, I think that this offense is going to see a good jump when you look at Doug Peterson calling the plays, Doug Peterson orchestrating this thing, Trevor Lawrence being the quarterback. The offensive line is improved. The running back room should be improved. The wide receiver room, while still uh, a little bit to be desired there, it's still improved. Christian Kirk would be by far the best receiver on the Jaguars roster last year. Zay Jones would probably be the third best. So they did improve. And then you look at bringing in Evan Ingram and Dan Arnold being healthy. The tight end room improved. Every single group got better. Uh, and again, you cannot underestimate the power of Doug Peterson being a professional coach, a coach that is going to identify and connect with these players. He already has in a big way and be able to get the most out of them. He did that consistently in Philadelphia and as an offensive coordinator prior to that. So, is this Jaguars offense any good? I'm not going to make any record predictions, any statistical predictions, or anything like that yet. These guys still haven't even hit the field. We've got a lot of offseason work to do. We've got training camp. But again, they're better in every single room. The coaching is better. Trevor Lawrence is going to be better in year two. The potential downfalls, I think, is just time. Like, you're installing a new offense. You're having Trevor Lawrence in his second offensive system in the NFL, his third offensive system in the last 3 years, dating back to Clemson. So just getting all the timing right, getting everything working as a cohesive unit, it could just take a little bit of time. And so when you talk about a young team trying to rapidly improve on the wins and losses, if it takes time, depending on the early season schedule, you could be in a hole early on. We'll see. Drops could be an issue still, as I've mentioned. I think Evan Ingram is prone to drops. I really don't think anyone else on the roster is prone to drops, but Laviska Shenault was in 2021. I shouldn't say anyone else on the roster. Anyone else in the starting lineup, let's say. Christian Kirk, solid hands. Marvin Jones, solid hands. Zay Jones, solid hands. Dan Arnold, solid hands. I think between those three receivers and Dan Arnold and Evan Ingram, those are probably your top five targets in this offense. Plus Travis Etienne. Could he get 50 receptions, as Josh asked earlier? Definitely. Definitely, he could push 40, 50 catches. I think you've seen James Robinson do that in the past. So I think Etienne certainly could be in that range. But drops from Evan Ingram could be very frustrating. But outside of that, I think if Laviska Shenault is showing any issues catching the football, he's just not going to be on the field all that much. And I don't expect him to. I think last year was a one-off year for Visca, and I expect him, if he's in Jacksonville, to be a much more positive role player for the Jaguars offense than he was in 2021, and he was asked to step up and be a legitimate starting receiver for an offense that was frankly a terribly run offense from the head coach to the offensive coordinator. And it just did not work out for Visca. Laquan Treadwell also dropped several passes, some disappointing ones. Cuban Raider Jamarcus Russell's first 16 games were better than Trevor Lawrence's. Oh, Cuban Raider. I'm assuming you're a Raiders fan based on your name, based on that profile pic. Talk to me in a year about Jamarcus Russell's first 16 games being better than Trevor Lawrence's. That is awesome stuff right there. Make you laugh on a Wednesday. But yeah, so the potential downfalls we've talked about so far is just the timing of everything, getting this group to coalesce, to work as a cohesive unit. How long does that take? The drops could be a problem with Evan Ingram. If Laviska Shenault doesn't improve his drops, that could be frustrating. Laquan Treadwell as well. Of course, Shenault and Treadwell, I think, will probably be at this point looking like maybe Shenault could be the fourth or fifth target on this offense. Treadwell behind him. So when you look at that, they might not even have huge opportunities early on. And then just the lack of a true dynamic impact number one receiver. Could the Jaguars go get one? There's still some guys out there that can make a positive impact, no question about it. But they don't seem keen on the idea of really investing too much more into this wide receiver room this year. They had plenty of opportunities in the draft to go get wide receivers that I think could have made an impact in year one, but they decided not to. So I wouldn't expect the Jaguars to trade for a receiver. I would not expect them to make a big free agent signing. OBJ is still available. Yes, Cuban Raider, he is. I wouldn't expect him to want to come to Jacksonville. I just don't think that's a fit. He's probably going to be ring chasing, and I don't blame him for that. The other potential downfall is injuries, right? I mean, Brandon Scherf, long history of injury. Travis Etienne, James Robinson, both coming off injuries. Jamal Agnew coming off an injury. So yeah, there's injuries always can derail a season for an offense. What you hope here is that based on the depth that they have created on the offensive line, the depth that they have at running back, and the depth that they have at receiver and tight end, where you have multiple guys you can feel good about in both rooms at receiver and tight end. You like Christian Kirk and Marvin Jones, and Zay Jones can be reliable, if not probably not spectacular, but reliable at least. And then Dan Arnold and Evan Ingram are both quality starters in terms of being receiving tight ends. But so you have better depth than you have had here on offense, but injuries could still derail things. Still, I think this is going to be a top 20 overall group, and I think that could surprise some folks. And I think they could sneak into the top half of the NFL. But as of now, projecting forward, just right after the draft, haven't seen them on the practice field, haven't seen training camp, haven't seen anything in the preseason. I think this is going to be a top 20 group. I think they're going to be around 20 overall. Cuban Raider says, I love Zay Jones. You guys got a baller. That guy is clutch. All right. Good to hear that. Again, I think he's going to be reliable. I think the Jaguars are going to have a top 20 overall group that's going to improve based on the talent level around Trevor Lawrence, based on Doug Peterson actually coming in, running a professional offense. You're going to get a lot of wide zone, inside zone, some West Coast principles, some deep shots, creativity. I think that's going to really help improve uh, on what you saw last year. And I just think Trevor Lawrence is going to take a massive step. This guy is too talented not to. I think the receivers are going to play better football. You're just going to see a more complete team. And again, I'm telling y'all, this is top 20. I'm not trying to say the Jaguars are going to light the NFL up on offense. I'm just trying to say I think they're going to be a functional offense based on everything we've seen, based on Doug Peterson's history, the talent level, Trevor Lawrence, and the coaching staff around Doug Peterson. And the guys they've brought in, they're all bought in. Christian Kirk and Marvin Jones, they're a good duo at the top. Not a great duo, but a competent duo. What do you guys think? Jack Sayre says his offense will be fun this year. Elena's dad is talking about Trayvon Walker over under 6 sacks his rookie year. We're not talking about the defense right now, Elena's dad. Mike says maybe I'm just being too cautious though. I mean, he says I hope we don't do too much read option stuff. I know his mobility is a strength for T Law, but that last thing I want. I mean, I don't think that that's going to be the offense. It's not going to be a zone read offense. It's not going to be an RPO offense, but you're going to see that stuff. Absolutely. And I think it's going to be a positive thing for the Jaguars. You need you don't want Trevor Lawrence to be a rushing quarterback, but do you want him to be able to threaten with his legs? Yeah, absolutely, and he can. Just going back through the comments here, see if there's anything I missed that we need to hit on. It's not a 1-year fix. Bengals didn't get good until they drafted their number 1 wide receiver in year 2, says Florida boy. You know, I agree with you that the Jaguars do not have the receiving core that the Bengals had last year, but can Christian Kirk and Marvin Jones be effective? Yes. Can their tight ends be effective? Yes. Do they have a better offensive line than the Bengals did last year? 100% yes. I mean, they had Joe Burrow getting killed. Despite all that, they were still able to make the AFC Championship and then the Super Bowl. I don't think I'm not trying to predict the Jaguars will do that or anything, but I will say the Jaguars have the potential to protect Trevor Lawrence in a much better way than the Bengals did last year with Joe Burrow. Cool. That's all we got. Who wins the AFC South? Right now, and again, this is not a final prediction. I will. I'll entertain you guys. I'll say the Colts are going to win the AFC South. I think Matt Ryan playing in a dome. They went and got Alec Pierce to pair with Pittman. They have a really good running game, good offensive line. I liked their draft a lot. I think the Colts are going to win the division as of right now, Wednesday, May 4th. Long way to go. I think the Titans will still be tough. I know they've got a lot of bad press lately. They traded A.J. Brown, replaced him with Traylon Burks, went and drafted Malik Willis. Ryan Tannehill doesn't seem very happy about that. But I think you would still look at the Colts and Titans as the favorites. And for me, the Colts are the favorites. Unique Ngakoue getting back with Gus Bradley, I think makes a lot of sense. You've still got a really talented defensive front out there. They went and got Stephon Gilmore as well. I think the Colts are the easy favorites. Trayvon Walker over under 6 sacks. Fine, I'll entertain it. I'll go under. I mean, I think he's going to make an impact. I don't think you should measure that impact necessarily on his sack totals in year 1. He's going to be a really good run defender. He's going to be a guy that you can do a lot of different things with. I know the Jaguars are trying to get him to focus on one role to start the season, which is outside linebacker, the same kind of role as Josh Allen. But he'll make an impact. I'll say under 6 sacks, though, which, of course, some people are going to be disappointed about. But if you know what type of player he is, I don't think it's going to be all that disappointing because he's going to help you get to third down with his ability to stop the run. He's going to make an impact, and it's going to be in ways that might not be tangible for the average fan. And again, I would not have made that Trayvon Walker pick, but do I understand why the Jaguars did? Yes. Is he going to make an impact? Yes. Is he going to be a consistent contributor as a pure edge pass rusher? That's the question. Has all the talent in the world to become that. Florida boy says Josh Allen 15 plus sacks. Okay. I could see it. The most sacks he's had in his career is 10 and a half, I believe, in his rookie year. He is surrounded with more talent than he has been surrounded with over the last couple seasons. If Josh Allen plays the way he did during the middle stretch of 2021 for an extended period of time in 2022, he very well could get 15 sacks. He was dominating for about 6 weeks in the middle of the season. It was one of the most productive and difficult defensive end slash outside linebackers to deal with in the NFL during that stretch. That's going to do it. I think the Jaguars, like I said, a top 20 overall group on offense is what you're looking for. I think that's what you will get this year. And I think if that is the case, it's going to be a sign of massive progress from Trevor Lawrence, from the weapons around him, from the offensive line, just from the scheme with Doug Peterson calling the plays. Appreciate everybody for tuning in. Really, really thankful for you guys supporting the channel. Make sure to hit that like and subscribe button on YouTube and check genjag.com for all the latest Jaguars news, analysis, and Duval gear.